don't turn off the video. It's supposed to be black. So this is something that served as an inspiration for this small role-playing game I'm working on. The concept was two small girls living in a post-apocalyptic world with no parents, building a robot, finding a robot, and it substituting for their parents. So another piece of inspiration with this was this small comic page that I made on this concept that I came up with. And let's just jump straight to the game. I'm just gonna actually launch the game. The game is written in Kotlin, and for the game engine I've been using uh, libgdx and a lot of free tools and stuff that I found on the internet. And for example, I'm not even sure if this is working, you know. Oh, no, it seems to be working. Anyway, you're this small guy in the middle, and what we can actually do is you can zoom in and have a look at it. This sprite is actually not the one I'm going to use in the actual game. This sprite was drawn by a colleague of mine during a hackathon where we transformed my prototype of a role-playing game into a onboarding role-playing game for new employees at my employer. And the purpose of that was, well, we're something like 100 people, so we need to have something fun, a small game or something kids can play to learn each other's names, etc. So I'm using it. This is actually a good friend of mine. This guy is a colleague of mine, and this other guy is actually a colleague. But in the game that I'm actually working on my spare time, this is supposed to be a small 10-year-old girl. So ignore the beards and everything. So I'm just going to bump into this NPC. This NPC is created using my story engine, and the engine for controlling stories, etc., is inspired by a game developers conference talk made by a guy from Valve regarding their own dynamic dialogue system. So, inspired by that, for this dialogue, I've used the ink language and the inky tools, etc., from Inkle Studios. They also made a really good game developers conference talk talking about how they use their own tools. It's really easy to set up and get going. There's a really nice Java runtime that you can use in libgdx to use the ink language for dialogue. So this is it. Oh, what's your name? The guy asked. I tell him my name, and he says his name. It's a rough time surviving in the wasteland. We're very young to do it. Says, oh, I think you. And when you're selecting here, you could either use the keyboard, 0 or 1, or you could just click the options. This works on Android. I haven't tried it on an iPhone yet, mostly because I don't have one. And our parents are lost, so we need some help. Oh, it's very you. How did they disappear? So this dialogue is sort of meant to be the stepping off point for the game players taken. We're looking for advice, trying to find these parents of ours. Uh, Point of inspiration for me is the classic game Pirates, where you're looking for a parent. And he gives us advice about trying to find junk, go to Barter Town, inspired by a Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, obviously. Uh, so we get some advice from this guy, and what happens when we bump into people like this NPC, and there's a small bug there because when we do that, the entire world stops processing except for the rendering engine, which keeps drawing people and terrain. But the physics engine, everything is turned off, so nothing happens after we bump into something. So I use Box 2D because I use that in different games where I try to learn libgdx. So I use Box 2D in that, and found it really easy to manage collisions and stuff like that. So what happens is we bump into this guy, a message is sent using the messaging system in libgdx, and a bunch of facts are set. This is the part that is inspired by the Valve PDC talk about dynamic dialogue. So a bunch of facts are set in the world, like who is this guy I met, and what's the context. I'm using an NPC. And then the story engine has a bunch of stories, and one of them is the main story, finding our parents. And in the main story, I have an init block where this NPC is created really close to the player. And right now he's wondering about it because he's actually controlled by a behavior tree. So that's actually an AI running around. And his behavior is, if I'm close enough, tries to go to the player. If I'm far away, he loses interest and does something else, which is scavenging. He looks for a tile on the map and goes to the tile and stays there for a while, trying to find food or something. Uh, so the collision system keeps track of if it's the player bumping into something like this, or if it's an NPC bumping into some terrain. If the NPC bumps into the edge of the water, he's going to lose interest of whatever he's doing and try to do something else. Could be. And I recently implemented the ability to zoom out. So the entire map engine is inspired by some articles on the very excellent blog, Red Blob Games. Uh, so I'm using Perlin noise to generate terrains and ooh, there's another NPC over there, which is surprising to me because I was pretty sure I removed all of them. So anyway, I store the tiles and everything and generate them using really complicated and inefficient algorithms, but I wanted to make a map that is created as you walk about on it, but I also get the same map every time except for places. So this is the place. Let's go to this place. And for this particular feature, I implemented my own dialogue engine that I can use with my game's own internal dialogue presenter. Uh, so I made a simple dialogue engine where you could make like conversations with random NPCs that don't actually have a part to play in this game. So like, oh, you meet a farmer in the at his farm, and he says hello and say something. So you could probably keep track of some simple stuff. It's a bit more complicated to write it, not really complicated. I've written my own Kotlin DSL to make the dialogues. I made a Kotlin DSL for the stories, for the rules, the criteria for rules, and every fact that is set in the world is persisted. So anyway, this simple dialogue is based on routes instead. So we have a bunch of lines that are said. So this is actually a talking city, which is weird. And you can have four options of what the player wants to do. So there's a positive option, the 0 one. There's a negative option for 1. And then there's a rude option. And these routes point to other steps in the conversation, just using string keys. So the first one says, okay, yes, please, I'd like a glass of water. So that points to a different step. And that loads the next step of the conversation, which contains the lines that the NPC is saying and your option. Oh, I'm so very thirsty. But we're not going to drink the water. It's a trap, actually. That water is poison. So we don't want to drink it. So we're going to have negative. No, considering I think I have to. And thanks. Blah, blah. So that's basically it. I'm using the micro tile set from OpenGameArt, and it's really nice looking. I only have four types of terrain right now, just because I couldn't be bothered implementing more, which is really easy. I have a noise function that sort of oh, the zoom and everything stopped working. Is it a bug? I think I accidentally pressed the inventory button, which actually doesn't do anything, just makes the game stop, and there's no way of getting out of it. I'm gonna see if it's still recording, if everything is working. I'm going to start up the game again. No. Ah. And the first thing that's gonna. Oh, I'm silent. Oh, I'm gonna turn off the game again because what I failed to do was I have a debug flag that sort of clears all the facts of the world. So instead of us starting where we left off, we start from the beginning again with none of the progress we made in the game stage. I'm gonna re-implement that as save slots or something. So anyway, you don't actually have to go see that NPC. I just wanted to show you the world for a bit and also show you that your location. And as you can see, there are some cities and places sprinkled about. I tossed out something like 15 appendices from the player. I have a lot of sort of utility functions for getting tiles within a certain range and stuff like that. And I think I've used almost every feature available in the libgdx uh, engine. So I use Scene2D to show the score, as you can see down below to the left, in the bottom left corner. I use Scene2D UI to show the overlaying speech bubbles during the dialogue. Uh, I use Box2D for collisions. I use the messaging system to send messages from certain systems. I use Ashley for everything, uh, like, well, rendering player sprites, rendering the maps, etc. And everything I do that sort of needs to be done all the time, I do using Ashley. So twice every second, the current position of the player is actually saved to my storage engine. And the part with the dynamic dialogue and the sort of facts of the world type of thing that I've done is inspired by a BBC talk made by some guys from Valve. And that talk is about dynamic dialogue. But I've used the same concept to sort of keep track of the state of the story. But the concepts are very similar. You have a bunch of facts about the world, built my own little engine to state facts, like you could state a number-based fact, like an integer, how many people have you met, etc. You could state add and remove stuff from the list, like uh, which NPCs have you met. All the NPCs have a specific unique ID. You can keep track of them that way. You can state some string facts, and there's also the concept of a context. So when I bump into an NPC, that's the context met NPC, and the only other context that exists right now is I went someplace, and that's when I bump into a building. And as you can see, the map goes on forever and ever, basically until memory runs out. And the way I implemented the map is I use Polynoid to generate uh, what kind of terrain is supposed to be where, and then for all the edges we have here, I add some extra sprites depending on what our neighbors are. And to make this more efficient, I store the configuration for all possible tiles, so I don't have to re-instantiate or reuse the collection of sprites. So for instance, this particular sprite that tile that I'm standing on consists of one green grass tile here, and this particular edge tile that is both to the south and east is rock. So this, when I generate this particular tile, I figure out this is what we're going to need to represent it in the world so it looks nice with a nice little jagged edge here. I'm going to zoom in so you can see it properly. And as you can see, the hitboxes aren't flawless, and that's my next thing after I've figured out how to render an entire city. Uh, the edges aren't flawless, and also it could use some Y order stuff to make it stand behind this, or just make it be more over here. Anyway, that's just details. And so when I generate the tile, I sort of figure out this is what it's supposed to look like. Do I already have that configuration stored? And using data classes in Kotlin, I just uh, calculate the hash code. It's already implemented in the data process. So I get a hash code for it and check if I've already used the tile that looks the exact same. And then I use that configuration so I don't have to instantiate like the Brazilian tiles. But I still do, because all of these tiles are actually instances of a class. I did a different way before, and I'm probably going to re-implement that a couple of times more, and I'm also going to be looking into using tiled maps from that map editor, tile editor, whatever it's called, the open source free thingy. It's a really nice tool, but I like generating content, not actually making content. So I wanted to make an endless world, and the map is stored in chunks of 10,000 tiles each in a straight array, not a straight array, an array of arrays. I'm going to re-implement that as well. So every chunk is like 100 tiles across and over, and I have a management class that keeps track of where all the chunks are, etc., etc., etc. Yeah, so that's it. I'm probably going to make my repository for the code public sometime soon. I'm just a bit anxious about the state of the code. There are some tests in the code, mostly for the map management stuff, keeping track of the tiles and indexes, etc., and also for the rule engine where I match rules, etc. Well, anyway, I'm going to turn off the game and I'm going to restart it shortly, just like that. And hopefully I removed the flag I reset, and now it's just going to jump all over the way here. And we are where we left off. The cool thing, nah, it's not really cool, but the places implementation is so young. Okay, I was actually wrong. I was going to say, oh, there's going to be some places around here, but I could, yeah, maybe they're right, actually. Because they aren't actually persisted. Places are created close to the player every time you start the game. So I can just go. And right now they're actually not doing anything in the game or for the story. Um, they just consist of that hard-coded dialogue. My ambition is to either generate cities and or locations like dungeons, etc. on the fly. We'll see about that. So that was it. I hope you enjoyed.